Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Canucks Oilers tonight. Elias Pettersson moving to the wing on a line with Elias Lindholm and Niels Höglander. Today's guests, including John Shannon, standing by, brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Vancouver Giants season ticket packages are now on sale. All season ticket packages now include access to WHL Live, so you never miss a game, as well as the first 2 home playoff games. Plus, flexible payment plans are available with no additional costs. For information, email sales at vancouvergiants.com or call 604-4-GIANTS. As we bring in NHL analyst, co-host of the Bob McCowan podcast, John Shannon, as always on a Thursday. How are you, sir?
I'm well, boys. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, John, Rick Tocchet, and you've been around in the media for a while, didn't hold back his criticism after Game 4 of the Canucks-Oilers series. I know you appreciate that as a member of the media. Do you think it's a good idea for his hockey team?
I think it's actually just pretty consistent from what we've seen from Rick Tocchet all season. You know, and I think that's one thing that players would appreciate is consistency. I still remember early in the season, I think it was a game in Philadelphia, early in the season, and people were surprised how blunt he was about the team's play. And the team went on and played very well for the next little while. You know, these guys are professional athletes. They like feedback. They like input. And I think at this time of year, when there's a lot on the line, I think that being honest probably makes a ton of sense. And I don't think Tocchet's ever sugarcoated it in the room, and hasn't done a similar thing with the media.
How do you feel, Elias Pettersson? I don't know if you saw it, John, but I'm going to assume you did. How do you think he came across yesterday?
Well, I think it's a tough hockey town. He's got a big job. He's signed for a long period of time, and he's feeling the pressure. Pure and simple, he's feeling the pressure, and this will be a good test for him. So many times we have seen players learn from playoff experience or lack thereof. This is his first test. And, can he respond? Sure. Does he have the ability to respond? Sure. The lineup changes that Rick looks like he's making make a ton of sense. Taking pressure off Pettersson in the face-off circle makes a ton of sense. And by the way, who won the face-off on the second goal?
Pettersson.
It was Pettersson. It's not as if he's hollow out there. He's just not performing at a level that expected to a guy that's going to make that much money next year.
John, the series off the ice, we've got media snapping at each other. We got Oilers Twitter, Canucks Twitter. You know what? And then I'm thinking about the Department of Player Safety. And every single play, these guys have a tough job. Like, so I look at what these guys do, and now with the social media, the media, the writing articles, these guys have a tough job to do. What do you think of the job they've done so far in this series?
Well, I think it's as consistent as it's been in others, and I would tell you that I think people following the Boston-Florida series thinks that that series has probably not been as fair from the player safety group that the Vancouver Edmonton series is at. Hey, it's playoff hockey. Guys, things happen. We haven't had a major dispute in this series that really, I think, people can point and say that changed the fate of that game or the series that we did see, and I think we've seen in the Boston series. I think that the guys at Player Safety don't pay attention to what social media says. They don't, they get hunkered down and have internal discussions. George Peros, Bill Daly, Gary Bettman talk about these things every day. The pressure that they feel, if any, is from the board, from the governors, from the owners, perhaps from a general manager. But really, the social media, the media, they don't really pay any attention to any of what we think or say.
NHL has got to love the fact the Bruins, the Avalanche, and the Hurricanes did not fold their tents. They keep coming back. They keep getting more games. You want games 6 and 7? Well, you're starting to get a lot of those now.
You know what? There was a point where you look at the Rangers series. Oh my goodness, could they sweep? Mm-hmm. Could Florida be in 5? Could Dallas be in 5? I mean, there were 3 teams that were happy last night coming out of Dallas. Obviously, the Avalanche, and then the Canucks and Oilers.
Yep.
Because you don't want Chris Tanev to have rest. You don't want Rupe Hintz to have rest. They have to go back at it now and play games. In so many ways, and it's so repetitive, but the Stanley Cup playoffs are a war of attrition. Every guy on every team is banged and bruised, and it's last man standing that wins the Stanley Cup, and it looks like we're going to go that way. When you think you're right, Rick, we have a couple of 3-2s, we have a 2-2. It's kind of cool when you think about how competitive the games are and how really exciting this second round has been.
Yeah, I think for the first time in a long time, John, you can correct me. I think for the first time in a long time, the second round has been more entertaining, more unpredictable than the first round. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
I think it has. Yeah, I think it has. But I also think, Donnie, that we're looking at 8 teams right now that all think they can win the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. There's going to be, if the Oilers win the series, there's going to be massive disappointment in Vancouver because this was the Canucks' year in many ways. Similarly, if the Oilers get defeated by the Canucks and the Canucks go on, it is going to be an awful summer in Edmonton. And I think you can do that in Boston, you can do that in Florida, and you certainly can do it in Dallas and Denver. So from that perspective, and in New York, might do it for, after losing a 7-game series to the Devils last year. This is an amazing set of matchups that we have in the second round with, potentially Stanley Cup champions in it, and then the team that loses being viewed as failures, and it's hard to fathom that with these teams being so good.
John, before we let you go, Darren Detession has left us at the age of 57. Yeah. Did you know him well?
I didn't know him well. I knew a great many friends that worked with Darren. I knew Darren. We probably shared a couple of beers at some point, laughed at a couple of points. But you know what? We often look at our friends south of the border, and they have created stars at ESPN, and Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann and Stuart Scott. Darren Detession was our star. Mm-hmm. And how many nights did you go toe to toe with him, Donnie?
Oh, lots. Yeah.
And so what Darren did in so many ways was, and that's a tough job being an anchor of a highlight show. Doing games is fun. But night after night, Groundhog Day of doing highlights, he made it fun all the time. He was bigger than life, both physically and on the air. And he really, in many ways, was a cornerstone of sports across the country. Never got out of the studio very often, but everybody in the country that watched thought he was their friend, and that's the sign of a great broadcaster.
Good Saskatchewan boy. You'll be missed.
Yeah.
Well said, John. Thanks so much for this.
Going to be fun tonight, boys. Cheers.
You bet.